Okay, hello. So I'm gonna do an answer guide since I've been asked by a few people, and there's not really any like really solid answer guides out there that I at least can think of. So I would like to do my own. So in the guide, I'll go over basically all the basic things and then some more advanced stuff that you might not find anywhere else. Um, so yeah, and of course, if there's anything that you know to be wrong, feel free to let me know, preferably on a Discord. Um, since I probably don't plan on checking too much of YouTube comments. But yeah, to get started off, I'll do some gear and stats, like what to aim for. So basically, my rogue is as close to Biz as it's gonna get, but this is with like 2 PvE daggers, and I have a PvE cloak, and I have a 418 elemental lariat crafted item and a ring 418 crafted item. So if you can get this, then obviously feel more than welcome to get this. But obviously it's not the most realistic for a lot of people. So once I've gone over stats, I will log on my other rogue, which is more just a pure PvP rogue, and I'll show you my gear on that character. So for stats, you want verse, and then you want mastery, and then you want haste, and then you want crit. The reason why you want mastery over haste this expansion is because you have a significantly larger amount of energy sources. So some of your talents have been buffed a little bit in the way that you can actually pick them now without losing other shit. So for example, Venom Rush wasn't a thing that you could pick reliably in previous expansions, but now you just have it. So you get significantly more energy from that, and you get energy from this, and then your poisons might crit, so you get an energy from that. So there's just a lot of different things that you get energy from now, and obviously you have Thistle Tea as well, which can boost your energy a lot as well if you do use it properly. And I'll go over how to use it properly later. And yeah, verse, I would say get it around 30%. In PvP, I'll have it just above 30%. And honestly, you don't need that much more. If you have a good healer on your team, then you'll be perfectly fine. For solo shuffle, maybe you can have a bit more if you're like uncomfortable with like surviving. But overall, you don't really need much because it is you're only picking verse for the survivability. Other stats are better for damage. So you should only worry about verse if you're like struggling to survive, kind of thing. I would say I'm okay at surviving, so I choose to play a bit less verse. I have just about 30%, as I said. And then haste, you get as much as you can. You get some from off pieces and tier gear, like your shoulders have a haste, and then your insignia will have haste, and then you might have a second ring with haste, conquest ring. I don't on this character because I have a crafted ring. I can allow myself to use a bit less haste gear where others might need to use some haste gear, just a little bit, because I have 2 daggers. So I have around 10% haste on this character, and then 45% mastery-ish. But yeah, that's what you want for stats and gear. This is like basically as close to biz as you can get, as I said. So try obviously if you can to get this, but I will show you how gear could look if you have a pure PvP character. Just gonna log in here 1 second. Scuffed guide, I know, but it's gonna be how it is. Hopefully you can survive. So yeah, this would be how a gear could look on a pure PvP character. So you would have just full conquest gear basically. You can obviously replace this with a conquest cloak, and you want Drakebreaker, belt, and wrists, and then you just get a haste versus ring and a haste or mastery versus ring. Then insignia. On this character, I have around 7.5% haste. I'm a night elf at night, which you get an extra percent haste. So outside of so if it was during the day that you were playing, you have a 1% less haste, obviously. This character is like full PP gear. And as you can see, it works perfectly fine. You can easily play with full PP gear. You don't need any crazy PvE gear. And this character has significantly more burst and less mastery. In PvP, I have around 34-35% burst on this character and quite a bit less mastery. So this character has more defensive stats than my main. But I would suggest if you can get the gear my main has, then get that, of course. but it doesn't matter as much as people might think. So you just get whatever gear you can get, and then you game it up. Most likely, you're not gonna lose because of gear. At least not if you have full conquest gear. Then it's more a learn to play issue if you're struggling. I guess I could talk about like main hand dagger if you want. A main hand dagger, you just use a conquest dagger. I would suggest for Asa to just use the conquest dagger. If you feel like it, I mean, if you really want to have more mastery, then go for it and use double Drake Breaker. But I would suggest just using double conquest, or not double conquest, one conquest and then a Drake Breaker in offhand, and then you're good to go. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is talents, and then PvP talents as well, of course. And I will have a link to all the different builds in the description of the video, so feel free to check it out. I'll go over the main builds that I use in Arena, at least. So this is like how I play almost all games for normal talents. I like intent to kill is really good. Having more uptime is always a bonus. You don't have to remember uptime equals damage, so you can't really only think of it as shadow step cooldown, right? Because the more shadow steps you have, the higher uptime you can have as well, and then do more damage. So I drop 2 points in these poison talents, and then I go here and get both Xang and Master Assassin. And I think this is what a lot of people are playing. This is what I have found to be the best, at least, and I play this always into everything. If you want to, you can swap something over here. Like if you face pure casters, you can drop dead nerfs, and then you can put it in like nimble fingers. No, you can't. What am I saying? You can put it in unbreakable stride or rush setup. Rush setup is pretty bad for Asa, so you probably should put it in unbreakable stride. Both of them are pretty dog, but if you want to into casters, you have to pick one of these two, obviously, to get down here to Thieves versatility. But yeah, I don't really care to change it that much. It's not worth it. Like these two are really like unimpactful. These 3 talents aren't that important in general. You only really pick them to go down here. And obviously, for as a specific talent, you always want Dragon Tempered Steel. Always good with 4 poisons, makes the game unplayable for other people. I've seen some people go here and then down to Tiny Toxic Blade. I don't recommend doing that. I really just recommend playing these talents always. There are some rare scenarios where you could play Shiv. I'll show you what Shiv build I play. If I'm playing Shiv, it's really rare. Obviously, cheat dev up here, you can pick and choose. I don't know why it has cheat dev here. Must have faced a sub-rock or something in solo shuffle at some point. But I don't play this build ever, really, unless I'm facing the same team and I know for a fact that they're stacking on a pillar or something. Then cleaving them down with Shiv is good. But this is like, I've spec'd into this like 2 times, I think. It's really not something that I would recommend playing. I know it was hyped and stuff in the start when it was changed, but it's not good. I would recommend just playing the normal build. And then something I have been quite passionate about is if you're playing with a hunter or any class that has a mortal strike, then you do exactly what I'm doing now. I'll show you. You drop improved wound poison, and then you put it into nimble fingers. That's what I prefer because it's nice with some extra energy. And then over here you drop improved poisons and you go amplifying poison. And then you play no wound poison and you play amplifying and deadly poison. The reason why you do this is because you will already have a mortal strike on your team, which is 25% from most classes. So it's pointless to play wound poison because it doesn't do anything. You will gain so much damage from playing amplifying poison instead of wound poison. So much damage. It does a good amount of your damage, plus it increases your envenom damage. It does a lot of damage. So I highly recommend that if you are playing any like threes comp or solo shuffle and you have a mortal strike on your team already, do make it like take the time to have a second spec where this is your setup, because it does make a difference. I don't have enough talents to do it on this character, so I just swap back and forth whenever I need to. But on my other character, I do have a setup for it. But that's like one thing I really recommend. Again, I will have a link to all of these things in the description below, so just watch out for that. But those are the 3 builds that you can play in Arena. If you really want to, you can drop some stuff here and play more poison damage. I don't think it's good though. I would recommend just playing what I've said here. And then for PvP talents now, this is a bit more interesting now, because obviously before these were like the 3 pretty much basic talents. Obviously you could swap sometimes bombs to dismantle or maneuverability to dismantle, depending on the matchup. Hemotoxin was like set in stone, but now it's only 30%, so it's like not that good. Like it's a bit more, like this slot now you can pick a bit more things. Death from above could be good into certain things if you feel like making plays. The damage it will give you is not noticeable because you're also losing 2 globals while being in there and using the ability. It's like a 2 global ability, so you have to consider that. It can be good to use defensively though, because you will be immune to CC while you're in there. So you can like pre-DFA like a kidney or something. Can be good sometimes. System Shock, I mean, it's just a bit of extra damage. I don't really recommend playing it. Creeping Venom can be really good into a lot of things that don't have a poison to spell, because it will really like mess with the enemy's brain, because a lot of PvPers, they don't like to stand still. So having to stand still for 4 seconds is really like a mental struggle for a lot of people, and it can be really, really good. Obviously, it's a 90% slow if it doesn't get dispelled or removed, and it stacks up to 18. So it is really, really powerful into things that can't easily remove it. And then Control is King if you're struggling with energy. I know I've heard some people are struggling with energy, so you can play this instead of Hemotoxin. I tried it one game. I mean, you can feel it a little bit. It's not terrible. And then obviously the trio that you probably will play most of the time if you need to is Maneuverability, Dismantle, and Smoke Bomb now. So Hemotoxin is like, you can still play it, but it's not really that important anymore. So you have more choices that you can make. I still play Hemotoxin sometimes just because I feel like sometimes the other talents are whatever. But yeah. And then Dagger in the Dark and Veil of Midnight are really bad. And then Thick as Thieves is not terrible, but you'd have to play something else up here, obviously. So that's your decision to make. You'd have to pick Tricks of the Trade to be able to play this. You can do it if you drop like something, obviously. You could drop maybe Prey on the Weak, pick Tricks, 15% more damage every 30 seconds for 6 seconds for your partner, or something. Or if you're playing the no wound poison build, you could drop the wound poison and go there instead of Nimble Fingers. It just depends on what you want to do. Pretty much everything except Veil of Midnight and Dagger in the Dark are viable options for PvP talents now. You just have to pick and choose what you prefer to play. That is really all there is to it. I like Freedom Sprint and stuff where I'm like either needing it for defensive uses, like into warriors, for example, or hunters for steel trap, or frost mages, very good, obviously. Like any mage spec really can root you. Anything that can root and snare you, which is really annoying. Maneuverability is really good. And then disarm is good into everything that can do damage with their weapons, obviously. You all know when disarm is good, I suppose. But yeah, that is basically it for talents. So I'll be moving on to the best races. Obviously, the best race is Night Elf for Asa, by far. Nothing else comes even like remotely close, due to Shadow Meld being the way it is. You can Shadow Meld re-stealth, and then you get another triple Garrote out, or whatever you want to do. It's very, very good. Shadow Meld is really strong for that reason. And then the second best race is probably Dwarf / Dark Iron Dwarf, one of those two. Probably Dark Iron is better for the offensive uses as well. Just defensively, it's the best because you can pretty much like you're very strong into other Azeroths then. But yeah, really, if you're Alliance, there's no reason not to be Night Elf for PvP. Just be Night Elf. Really, it's the best for all 3 specs on Alliance. Offensively, anyways. And then on Horde, I mean Orc is still the best on Horde. You still get a 20% stun reduction, which is a little bit more than the CC plus OCC here, and then Boots CC as well. So Orc on Horde and Night Elf on Alliance. But at the moment, you can basically play every race to high rating. You're not gonna be low rating because of your race. Obviously, being Night Elf might help a bit. It definitely helps being Night Elf. So if you can be Night Elf and you have the resources to go Night Elf, then by all means, please do go Night Elf. It is very, very good compared to everything else. Okay, and now we go into some more like how to actually play. So some rotational priorities. So your main priorities as an Asa rogue is keeping up your bleeds. Alright, and which bleed is the most important? I would probably say Garrote is the most important at the moment, because it does so much damage. Obviously from stealth it does a lot of damage, but it's also just a bleed that you can just press. You don't have to do anything prior to it, just press it. So Garrote is nice, prior number 1. Rupture number 2, obviously both are really important. Both are mandatory to always have up. Rupture takes a bit longer to get up, so get up a Garrote first, obviously, just a 6-second cooldown. Nice and easy. A Rupture second, and then the next priority is Kidney if you have it ready and it's good to use. Else you Slice and Dice. So Rupture, so Garrote, Rupture, and Slice and Dice are your 3 maintenance buffs that you always need to keep up. Slice and Dice is kind of like easy to keep up because you refresh it with Envenoms. So once you've pressed Slice and Dice once, then you just refresh it with Envenoms into the rest of the game, basically. I recommend using Slice and Dice with 1 to 3 combo points, just whatever you get from whatever ability you use, basically. Don't try and build to 5 to Slice and Dice. Just use one ability, whichever ability it is, and then Slice and Dice. A lot of people ask, like, when should I Slice and Dice? You shouldn't really worry about it too much. If you're going to go with a kidney really fast, then Slice and Dice is not a priority. Then you just do as much damage as you can in the kidney, and then you get Slice and Dice up when you have time. Because it's not that important. The only thing it does is buff your poison damage a bit and melee attacks, obviously, which is not nothing, so it's good to have up. But if you're going to go do a go very fast in the opener, then just make sure you Envenom instead of Slice and Dicing, because during the go, Envenoms will do more damage than whatever Slice and Dice will add. Slice and Dice is one of those things where you just get it up whenever you feel like you have time. You only have to press it once in a game, and after that you should be able to keep it up basically the whole game with just Envenoming. So those are your priorities. Garrote, Rupture, Slice and Dice equals Kidney. Kidney is over Slice and Dice if you need to do a go fast. And then after that, Envenom. So your 3 maintenance buffs, Garrote, Rupture, and Slice and Dice, are just something you keep up all the time. And then Envenom and Kidney are things you need to do whenever they're ready. Envenom is obviously something you do when you don't need to do the other things, basically. Yeah, those are basically your main priorities. Keeping up Rupture and Garrote on as many people as possible is good. So yeah, then we'll go into some openers. Some different openers here. So if you want to cleave, say you want to cleave 3 people, then an opener could look like Garrote, 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 Rupture, Echoing, Rupture again, Serrated Bone Spike, Mutilate, Rupture the 3rd person, Mark with Kidney 1, then you Shiv, and then you can Envenom or whatever, right? Something like that. Just getting up bleeds as fast as possible is good. I'll just enable True DCD so you can actually see that. I'll do it again for you. But something like that is really good. If you're cleaving 3 targets. Because then you get up everything pretty fast. So I'll do it again in a second when combat drops. But that's like a cleave opener. Then you get like triple Garrote. Obviously it's a bit rough if you're facing like melees or whatever that can disarm you to get that off. But if you're getting up triple Garrotes and triple Ruptures very fast, it's a lot of damage. And then you can kidney when you have all that stuff ready on everyone. Then you can also do on 2 targets, you can do, if you're opening on 2 targets that don't have any way to stop your Garrote, you can do Garrote 1, Garrote 2, Garrote the 1st person again, Rupture while still silenced, Mark for Kidney, Echoing, Shiv, Envenom, Mutilate, hopefully land on 2 or 4, Envenom again, and then, you know, you just do a lot of damage. I need to just run away so I can get out of combat here. But something like that. And then I'll go over the rotations if you want to open on someone that has a disarm or something for you on your Garrotes. So say this is a monk, Skull is a monk, then or a warrior, then I don't want to go on them. They're a monk or a warrior and you don't want to go on them, you want to go on the other person. Then you cheap shot, Garrote him, then garrote the other person that you want to go on, Rupture, mark with Kidney to go first you want to go on, Echoing, Envenom, or Envenom Shiv, whatever you prefer, and then you just do damage, right? The openers for Asa are, they're not that important, because a lot of the combos with Asa are pretty slow. In the opener as Asa, you're not going to do that much damage, because let's be real, you need to get up bleeds and stuff like that before you're going to do damage, so it's mostly going to be your partner doing damage in the opener. So it doesn't really matter as much what you do in the opener. It matters more that, well, you need to stun the target that you want to kill. That's the only real thing that matters. And then you rely on your partner doing a lot of damage. What you can do in the opener is basically just, if you want to open with Kidney, say you want to open with Kidney and nothing else matters, then you just mark for death, Kidney, Garrote, Rupture, Echoing, Shiv, Envenom, Bone Spike, Envenom, Mutilate, and then the Kidney is over, right? And then you've done a little bit of damage. Obviously I have Bone Spike on a few targets now, so it might be a bit awkward, but you could just imagine it, right? If you Bone Spike crits, you're chilling. You can also just ignore the Bone Spike and just Mutilate instead of Bone Spiking. Just build combo points to Envenom. If you land on a blue combo point, obviously it's good. But it's really not that relevant what you do in the opener. There's way too much like pressure on. I feel like people put way too much in the opener as a lot of the time it is really just your partner doing the damage in the opener. You're a slow spec and you're not gonna be pumping out insane damage in the opener instantly. That's not how Asa works. So the opener comes down to whatever you feel like doing, really. And then it depends what class you're playing with. In solo shuffle, I assume, is the most important thing people are interested in. So if you're playing with something that has a lot of burst damage, then yeah, just stun the target for them. And then let them do the damage in the opener and then save your stuff for next go or something. If you Deathmark in the opener, you're trolling every single time. It's never good to Deathmark in the opener. I don't think I've ever, in as many games as I've played, I don't know. I've played a lot of games at this point over the few rogues I have. And I've never Deathmarked in the opener. It's not good. Just don't do that. If you want to Deathmark early, then do it in second Kidney or something once you have every like maintenance buff up, so you do actual damage. You're not gonna do good damage in the opener as Asa. You're relying on your partner doing your damage. So that's basically the different openers that you can do. I'll just say them again verbally, and then feel free to listen if you want. But basically, the cleave opener, garrote 3 people. You'll overcap combo points by a bit, but you garrote 3 people obviously, and then you rupture the last person you garrote, then you echoing into garrote or into another rupture on another target you don't have rupture on. Then you can mutilate or bone spike or whatever. Just build combo points to another blue combo point, and then you rupture the last person. Then you can mark for that Kidney the guy you want to go on. That's like a good cleave opener. Then you got full bleeds on everyone and a Kidney on the kill target, right? Obviously, this is like a really hard opener to get off because you're relying on them not stopping you at all. It can happen sometimes. Getting out triple ruptures is pretty easy, or triple garrotes is pretty easy. But yeah. And then there's the 2-target cleave opener with no person to stop you. Your garrotes, that's garrote 1, then garrote the second person, then garrote the first person again into a rupture mark for the Kidney. Into echoing, Shiv, Envenoms. And then the second or the third opener is on a warrior / monk or whatever, something that can stop your garrotes. Then you cheap shot him if you don't want to kill him. If you want to kill him, then you can Kidney him. And then you garrote the first person and then garrote the second person. So you got 2 garrotes off. Getting a lot of garrotes off is really important, as many as possible, because you do a lot of damage with them when they're empowered. And then the next opener is just on one person with Kidney, mark for Kidney, garrote, rupture, echoing, Shiv, envenoms. Then you just build to envenoming. Stuff like that, right? But yeah, the openers, as I said, don't pressure yourself to do a lot of damage on the opener. You need to rely on your partners. And if both you and your partner don't have much opener damage, then you just do as much cleave damage and whatever you can. Just get your stuff ready for the second Kidney. The first Kidney is never that relevant, unless your partner has a lot of damage in the opener. That's like a main rule. That's been the same for a long time for Asa. It's never the first kidney that's scary, unless your partner has burst. The second kidney is when you really start to pump as Asa, because then you'll have all your stuff up and ready and running. So that's the openers. Then how to set up a burst. So how do you set up a burst? It's very simple, really. You have your ruptures and you have your garrote ready on the target. I'll just do it on the dummy here. So you have ruptures up, then you have slice and dice up, and you have bone spike up. Then what I like to do is Shiv, kidney, echoing, envenom, monk breath envenom, mutilate, hopefully end on 2, envenom again, and then you got 3 envenoms off in 1 kidney. This is like the optimal burst rotation. Obviously sometimes you want to mark for kidney in the opener, then your burst will be a bit different. But that's like the best burst rotation I can think of. Obviously if you want to Deathmark, then getting a big garrote up is good. Then it could look like this. I'll just do it from like, imagine I vanished to do this, okay? I had all my stuff up already, so I vanished to do this. So I just garrote, rupture, garrote, mutilate, rupture, exang, deathmark, shiv, mutilate, envenom, mark breath envenom. Obviously, it should be in a kidney. Try to fit that in there somewhere. You could probably mark for kidney before. But when you have deathmark up, envenoms aren't that important. You can do good damage with them anyways, but this was actually so scuffed. I'm just gonna do it again in a few seconds, okay? When it's ready, I'll do it again. I'm sorry, that was so scuffed. This guide is gonna be interesting. You might have to go back and forth a little bit, but I'm doing it in one take. That is what it is. But yeah, basically how to set up a burst, like I'll explain it verbally now. You get your bleeds up, your maintenance buffs, that is, garrote, rupture, and slice and dice. Then you need to make sure you have a Shiv ready. Then make sure that kidneyed. Then you can do, if you want to commit both exang and deathmark in the same go, then you exang first, then deathmark. And then you can spam envenoms as usual. The main thing during kidneys is just getting as many envenoms off as possible. It's very good. Obviously you want to have full bleeds up for your deathmark, else it is a bit bad. That's one way of doing it. Then if you just want to go with deathmark, then you just send deathmark and no exang. Then you'll burst a little bit less, but still good. But yeah, setting up a burst as Asa is really easy. It's just keep up your maintenance buffs, really. That's literally all there is to it. Maintenance buffs being garrote, rupture, and slice and dice. And then during your burst, you want to Shiv for the nature damage increase. Not so much for the healing reduction, just for the nature damage increase. It's nice for the envenoms. And then you just try and get as many envenoms in during the kidney as possible. That is basically Asa burst. You don't have that much burst as Asa. Most of your pressure comes from like sustained damage and kidneys being annoying and all this stuff, right? You know what to do. Okay, and then that's basically how to set up a burst. I'll do it again in a second. I guess I can do it without exang. Just imagine I have exang ready, okay? I'm just hitting him, blah blah blah, getting garrote up, mutilate, slice and dice, garrote one more. I know it's not empowered anymore, but it is what it is. Then I would do this, full bleeds now, mark 5 kidney, shiv, echoing, envenom, mark or mutilate, envenom. There you go. That's like the burst without exang. It's really easy. And don't worry too much. If you don't do it correctly, it is what it is. No one does it correctly every single time, because it is a lot of just like freestyling. You don't follow a specific rotation, because it's hard to follow rotation when you have RNG in your spec with this Seal Fate that can give you more combo points. So it is a lot about just knowing the priorities, and yeah, there's no set rotation, and there's no like opener rotation and all these things. It's all about priorities, and knowing the priorities is the most important thing. Okay, and now I'll go over when it's good to cleave. So there are a few scenarios, well, there's many scenarios where it's good to cleave for Asa. It's basically always good to cleave. So maybe it's easier if I go over when it's not good to cleave. Let's say you're facing RMP as RMP, so RMP mirror. Then I would and you're going on a mage, I think that's the best. From my experience, that's what I've had the most success with, going on mage, because you're just annoying them with mind numbing and all that stuff. And if you go on a mage, it allows your mage to control their rogue, and not having bleeds on the rogue will make the roots not break and stuff like that, right? So I don't. That's one of the scenarios where it's not good to like cleave. And then if you're facing like a really fast matchup, like a fast-paced matchup, say you're playing RMP or something into jungle, any comp versus jungle right now as a rogue is really, really fast. So I don't think it's worth cleaving there unless you're playing maybe like with a warlock. But if you're playing like SP rogue or mage rogue or even hunter rogue into a jungle, it's not really worth cleaving because the game is going to be so fast from both sides. Either you die or they die really fast. So you just kind of have to focus on doing one thing, else the game will. You're not gonna get enough pressure fast if you're trying to cleave multiple people, as most comps into jungle. You need to just send it on one person, either feral or hunter. I like going feral personally versus that specifically because it stops more damage in my opinion because they have to set bear more and stuff like that, so they can do less damage. And then your mage also gets to play a bit more because there's a kick less and stuff like that. Hunter can kick anyways, but if the feral is in bear form and running for his life the most of the game, then he won't be close to the mage most likely, and then you or whatever you're playing with, and then the caster you're playing with or whatever is free to play the game. So that's nice. But overall, there's not really that many options. There's not that many scenarios where you don't want to cleave as Asa, because the more bleeds you have up, the better. Because of the energy you get back from bleeds taking. So the more damage you can do, the better. Equal or meaning that cleaving is just good. But don't run like say this target dummy is one player and this target dummy is another player and you're on this player. If you have to run back and forth like 40 yards to just to bleed, it's not worth it. But say there's 3 people stacked like these dummies, then by all means go cleave. That's like a really good time to cleave. Even if you have 2 people here and 1 person here, it can be worth cleaving. Obviously, if this is the healer and you want to see him, then don't do it. But yeah, I think cleaving versus Evoker healer is really good. Evoker healers seem to be struggling a bit when you cleave and hit them as well, from my experience. So I think that's good. Really good. Specifically that. And Resto Druids are also good to cleave versus. Really anything that you can cleave against is good to cleave against. Disc Priests are not, like, you don't really care too much about cleaving into Disc Priests. They struggle healing single target more than AoE, I think. So better to just pump single target. Or 2 people. Dotting the Disc Priest doesn't really do much usually because they're not going to kill them. But Evokers and Resto Shamans and Resto Druids you can kind of kill. Even Holy Paladins if you face any of those, miraculously. So yeah, those are kind of the scenarios where I would cleave. Basically, always cleave. Except those few times where I said that it's not great to cleave. And then I'll explain a few like core mechanics to Asa. So the pandemic effect is essentially mostly important in the opener when you garrote. So if I garrote once, it lasts for 18 seconds, right? Now I will garrote again. It won't be empowered now because I'm out of empowerment, right? But if I garrote again, then it adds up to 24 seconds. Because the way pandemic effects work is any dot can be refreshed early, and then 30% of the original duration will be added onto the new duration. So instead of an 18-second garrote, you'll get a 24-second or 23, whatever. I'm not doing the math right now, but yeah, you know what I mean. So the reason why this is good for Asa, specifically with garrotes, is because if you want to garrote one, then you garrote again, and then you garrote this guy. Now you have a 23 or 24-second empowered garrote instead of 18 seconds. So you get an extra like 2 ticks in. Or 3 ticks in, I'm not sure how many it is, but yeah. That's why you want to garrote multiple times on the same target, if possible. But now if I went to do it now, then it would override it. So you don't want to garrote early on your empowered garrotes. You want to let them run out for max damage. You might lose a tiny bit of energy from it, but you'll get an entire, like, you'll gain damage from letting it run out and having its full duration expire. And then after it runs out, then you just regarrote, and then you have another. Because if you do it early, after the empowered garrote buff runs out, then you'll override your empowered garrote with a really bad garrote, just a normal garrote, and there's like significantly less damage, right? So it's really important that you don't do that ever. If you want to maximize damage and really min-max everything, then you want to make sure that you let your empowered garrotes run out. That's basically the pandemic effect and why it's like important to know about it for Asa. This works for all dots. It's not just garrote. Every single class in the game has this. It's just a thing with dots. It also works with rupture. I can show you. So 24 seconds is the original duration, like the standard duration. Then I refresh and it's like 31 seconds, 32 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever, right? So all dots in the game can be refreshed early, and then 30% of the duration will be added onto a new refreshed dot. But it does not snapshot for garrote, for example. Alright, so now deathmarking and garrote with deathmark. This is something I realized because I played PvE recently, as Asa. I didn't raid as Asa before, so now I know. But essentially, I'll show you. Now I have garrote on this target, yeah? So if I hope this works, else I have to wait 2 minutes, okay? But essentially, now I deathmark him, I shadow melt. Okay, I have to wait 2 minutes. I need vanish for this. But basically, if you deathmark someone and then you garrote from vanish, you'll get full combo points, or well, 5 combo points. Obviously that's full for PvP. Then you get 5 combo points from one garrote. Because apparently, I don't know how it works exactly with the tech and all that stuff, but because of deathmark being on the target, you get close to double. You get 5 combo points from a garrote. So that's like a bit of extra added burst, which is quite nice. It can be nice for something sometimes, right? It can be pretty good if you want extra burst, because then you can do garrote, 5 combo points, into Envenom, into garrote again, into another Envenom. So that's 4 globals, 2 Envenoms. That's pretty good on a Deathmark. So that's even more added burst onto Deathmark. If you want to commit that much. Obviously, you're committing Vanish or Shadow Melt to that. So you decide if you want to do it or not. It's just a cool little trick that I feel like I would share with the class. Okay, and then Exsanguinate. This effect just like Exsanguinate just makes your bleeds take 80% faster, right? So it reduces the duration of your current bleeds on the target current bleeds. So if I do this, now you see I have these durations. Now they're a little bit less. So obviously, to maximize the use of Exang, you want to get your full duration buffs. So now, this is not full duration. Now I want to do another garrote into another rupture, and then you can do it. So now you have pandemic, rupture, and garrote on the target, and then you can Exang. That's like max use of Exang. And then Exanging with Deathmark. If you want to Exang with Deathmark, make sure you Exang first. If you Exang after you press Deathmark, like if you Deathmark the target and then Exang, Exsanguinate will half the duration of your Deathmark. So you just, it is more burst, but it's not good to do it unless you're like 100% guaranteed getting the kill, because you're committing so hard if you do that. One, you're like reducing the overall pressure that you'll get, because half Deathmark duration is not good. And 2, you're committing both Exang and Deathmark to the same goal, which I personally don't do that often. You can do it sometimes, but I don't think it's that good. It's better to spread it out a bit. That's basically it for Exsanguinate. Just make sure you refresh your bleeds to full duration to get max usage of Exsanguinate, because obviously Exsanguinate increases your energy, like you'll get more energy back from the bleed ticks. So it's good to use it even for just some random pressure. If you feel like you're low on energy, you can try to get some bleeds up and then Exang them, and then you'll have more energy because of the faster bleed ticks. That's how I use it a lot of the time. I don't really use it too much just to burst someone, because it isn't really that much added burst. I like to use it more for consistent damage. Yeah. And then there's a poison knife bug. This is pretty common knowledge, but I will show you anyways, just to add it. So you see, now it has 5 stacks of wound poison. I throw a knife. Oh, now it has 1 stack. So basically, throwing a poison knife on a target with 5 wound stacks will refresh the duration of wound. Or the stacks of wound. That's the bug. But obviously, poison knife is still really good to use. It's a really, really good ability because it adds all your poisons. So if you see a healer, how most people use it is if you see a healer, like a priest specifically, or whatever, going for CC on your healer, then you can throw a knife to slow them or something. Or if you're facing multiple casters, then it can be good to poison knife the caster you're not on, just to add mind numbing, because mind numbing is really overpowered. So just keeping up mind numbing on people can be really, really good to use poison knife for that. On casters specifically. I like to do it on priest healers, because obviously it just slows down everything. Everyone just gets really slowed down if you use poison knife on them, if they're far away and you can't like get close enough to apply it in any other way. That's good usage of poison knife. And then there is some Thistle Tea usage. This is something that it's like not that important. You have to remember you're rogue, right? You will go out of energy. You're not doing something wrong if you go out of energy. It is going to happen sometimes. It happens to everyone. No matter what, you're gonna go out of energy. But yeah, Thistle Tea usage. I like to use a Thistle Tea charge early. So like say I do like the opener, cleave opener or something. I'll grow 1, grow 2, grow 3, then maybe I'll Thistle Tea here. And then like that can be kind of good. You get a little bit of mastery. You don't really use it for the mastery. You have low energy here already, or somewhat low. You have like 60, 50, 60 energy after growing 3 people. Then it can be fine to use a charge of Thistle Tea there. The main reason why I'm a bit like whatever with the first charge of Thistle Tea is because you just get it on cooldown. Every time you have 3 stacks of Thistle Tea, you're just sitting there wasting recharge time, right? So getting 1 stack used early can be. I like to do it. I do it all the time. Basically every game. I use 1 stack really early just to get it rolling, the cooldown. And then the rest of them I'll use. It depends on what comp I'm facing. If you're facing a comp where you feel like it's going to be really fast, or if you've like if a game is really fast, just send them on every kidney or whatever you can do, right? Just make sure you use them as well as possible. But if it's in a long game, then I like to use them when I'm about to go out of energy or something, right? Something like that. Or if you feel like you're gonna kill here or whatever, then just use a charge. You can be a bit loose with the using Thistle Tea because there's only a 1 minute cooldown and you have 3 charges, so don't worry too much. But if you are struggling with energy and all that stuff, then feel free to just use them when you're low on energy. If you're just pumping sustained damage. But don't worry too much about it. The main thing that I would say is a good tip is just use a charge really early so you get the cooldown rolling. That way you'll get more charges than other rogues who might sit on it for a long time for no real reason. You could get an entire extra charge in just because you use it early and then it recharges before you need it again, kind of thing, right? That happens to me sometimes where I'll just kind of use one in the opener almost and then I'll forget about it because I don't really go out of energy. You don't go out of energy if you're cleaving a lot, so at that point it can be good to use Thistle Tea for damage on a kidney or something if you're cleaving a lot because you'll have infinite energy by cleaving. And then, okay, when to blind. This is going to be mostly for solo shuffle because obviously blinding in 3s is, I mean, you just kind of do it when you feel like it's good. Talk to your partners and figure it out. Blinding in solo shuffle is mostly used for forcing a trinket, I'll be honest with you. Everyone saves blind or trinket for blind at the moment, at least at the like decent rating. So just don't think about it too much. Just send it as early as possible. Don't hold on to it for too long. Make sure it's full blind, and if they don't trinket, make sure you can try and sap off with either vanish or meld. That's basically all there is to blinding. If you're facing a comp that might go you or whatever, or you might need blind for peeling, then feel free to save it in that scenario. Or if you want to go healer, then you can blind the DPS whenever you feel like you need to either go for a kill and the DPS might be able to peel the go, or if your team is struggling and you can blind the DPS to peel your team. But if you're blinding a healer in solo shuffle, just send it as early as possible, because then the less time the healer has trinket, the more times you'll have a chance to get CC on the healer, or your teammates to get CC on the healer, and then it's actually gonna stick because you don't have trinket because you trinketed the blind, right? So just get it out of the way as fast as possible. Don't overthink it and don't like hold on to it the whole game and wait for them to trinket. You never hold blind until the healer trinkets. That's never the play, ever, because the main thing healers trinket is blind. So don't sit there and hold your blind hoping that the healer might trinket something. It's not worth it. Blind is mostly used just to force trinket and then other people can get CC. As Asa, it's not your job to CC that much. You have blind and that's about it. Sometimes it can be good to kidney for CC, but that's up to you to judge when. This is something you kind of just learn from playing a lot. You'll learn when it's good to do that. It's very specific scenarios. It's not something you do specifically in a game. It can be like if the healer is, or if the DPS is low health or something, and you want to CC the healer for a little bit of time and then kill the DPS or something. But mostly you kill, or you kidney the kill target. That's like the main thing you want to do with kidneys. So I feel like that's a common issue where you play Asa and then you think you still have to do a lot of CC. You don't. As Asa, you have blind, and that's about it. That's really it. If you vanish or shadow melt or something, you get a re-stealth, then obviously go for a cheap shot or a road for some CC. That's fine. But you do not need to sit there and think, oh, we can't do anything because someone is not in CC. You're an Asa rogue. You have so much damage if you play correctly. So much damage. So you just need to focus on doing damage. If you're struggling at low rating as Asa, chances are you're either bad at surviving or bad at doing damage. Both those things can cause you to be low rating. The main thing is going to be doing damage, because anyone can get high rating as Asa if you actually do damage. So just, if you're new to Asa, try to learn how to do damage. Very important. Damage is the most important thing at any rating in solo shuffle as Asa. And then the other things you will learn by playing. Surviving and stuff like that is something you learn by playing. Okay, and then that was Winter Blind. Now some tips for solo shuffle in general, and specifically against melee, because that's something people struggle with apparently. So sadly I don't have any clips of me playing solo shuffle into melee heavy lobbies, so I can't show you anything. But essentially, versus melee, one rule that I like to go by is you are an Aster rogue. You have insanely high damaging bleeds. So you need to think to yourself, who's gonna win the trade-off if I get bleeds up on a warrior or something, and I do like this, and I run around, and then when I have kidney, I go in, and then I can do some damage during the kidney. Then he's gonna come out of the kidney, and then I slowly run away a bit. You can try and dead zone the charge or whatever, but you have bleeds ticking on the warrior or whatever melee it is. You're gonna win the trade-off. You can weave in and out and do like this, and just kite a little bit like this and get your bleeds up. You have longer range because of acrobatic strikes, and your slow is better than any other melee because of wound poison or master poisoner. So you're always gonna win by doing this. Double melee lobbies can be rough, don't get me wrong, but this is, you have to just weave in and out and go in when you have kidneys, and then you just keep up your bleeds and you'll win the trade-off. You do damage with bleeds while kiting, they do no damage because they don't have uptime. You are by far the melee with the best damage during downtime, so use that to your advantage. And then try to feint when they finally get to you. Crimson Vial, Poison Knife to slow them. Ignore the fact that it resets your wound poison stack. You don't care that much about it. You'd rather make sure you don't get hit too much. But yeah, you really just need to keep up bleeds and then try to like weave in and out and dead zone them and kite between kidneys, so you take as little damage as possible. A lot of lobbies right now have disc priests in the lobbies. From experience, I get disc priest, double disc priest almost every single lobby at any rating. And disc priests, they get a lot stronger when they don't have the heal. The more damage a disc priest can do, the better they become. So if you take as little damage as possible with a disc priest in your lobby, he's gonna do so much more for your team than you're gonna do trying to face tank double melee. because you're gonna die, and the Disc Priest will do nothing. Your damage will be hurt a little bit because you won't be able to get as many Envenoms off and stuff like that, but as long as you keep up your bleeds, that's the most of your damage. Then let the Envenoms come during the kidneys. Just focus on keeping your bleeds up and not taking damage. And then during kidneys, you do Envenoms. That's what you would do anyways most of the time. A lot of the time outside of kidneys, you're just maintaining your debuffs and buffs and whatever, right? You don't care that much about everything else. That's the main thing into melee heavy lobbies. Just use your slows and your melee range with acrobatic strikes, and then your downtime damage to your advantage. Take as little damage as possible. You have shadow steps. You can use 2 shadow steps to your partners to kite away. You have sprint if a warrior charges you to root and charge root you. You just sprint freedom it, and then you're away. Then he has another charge. Then you might shadow step to the other melee or something, because you can easily tank 1 melee. 1 melee is fine to tank, but if you're tanking 2 melee at the same time, then you're never gonna have a good time. You just need to try and take as little damage as possible while maintaining your bleeds and going in for kidneys when you can. Use bone spikes to get combo points or whatever, and then throw knife or whatever you can do from range to get combo points is good. You can fan up knives and stuff like that as well if you're like right here. Fan up knives has kind of a big range, so you can use that as well, and that won't reset your wound poison stacks. And then you go in for kidneys, and then that's basically it into melee. It's really, it can be really rough. Don't get me wrong. It can be really rough if it's 2 good melee that are training you and you're like at victim class in the lobby. Then it's really rough. But you can definitely do things to make it a better time for you. So you just have to try and do that. And if it's something people would like to see, then I can try and see if I can get into a lobby with a more melee, and then I can try and record myself playing it. And then I can upload it to YouTube. But that would be something that I would do if people actually want to see that. I don't have any currently. I checked all my VODs on stream. I have nothing where it's double melee on me. So I can't show you. But I hope that what I just explained is at least something to go by. That's really all there is to it. If you're facing something like, I don't know, Demon Hunter Windwalker could be rough, then yeah, you probably have to utilize Shadow Steps a bit more. And then you need to make sure Sprint is a defensive cooldown and not an offensive thing that you just pop whenever. So those more mobile melee can be a bit harder than a warrior. But warrior is really the one that really does a lot of damage on rogue specifically. But yeah, hopefully my explanation gave some sort of like insight into what I do, at least if I am in the scenario. Yeah, and make sure if you want to see me try and get into a lobby with melees and I can like commentate over it or something and upload it to YouTube, just either join the Discord that I'll link in description or type it in the comments or something, and I'll try to get to that at some point. Do my best. Obviously, it's RNG if I get into a lobby like that. But yeah, that's about it. I hope that this guide was at least some help. I know it might have been a bit messy, but hopefully you can like speed it or slow it down or something, watching some other speed, and maybe you can get something out of it. I'm not the best at making guides, so I try my best. And there's 0 editing or anything, so it is what it is, kind of thing. But I'm more than happy to answer questions on my stream or on Discord or whatever, so feel free to message if something was unclear in the guide. Please do. I am very happy to help, and I enjoy helping, so just feel free to reach out if it's something that you feel like you need. But yeah, thank you for watching, and see you on my stream if you feel like watching that. Have a nice day.